Samuham sarvabhutesu.
Name dveshosti na priyaha.
Name dvesvopati na priya.
Name dveshosti na priyaha.
Name desyosti na priya.
Ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya.
Ye vajanti tu tumam bhaktya.
Ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya.
Ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya.
Maite te suchapyaham.
Maite te suchapyaham.
Maite te suchapyaham.
Maite te suchapyaham.
So Krishna is speaking. He's telling everybody, I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. So this is reasonable. If we accept that there's a God, then he has some likes and dislikes. Just like we're persons, we have likes and dislikes. Like he liked that Yudhisthira should be the emperor. He didn't like it that Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra were running the kingdom. So he has likes and dislikes. And so he arranged the whole battlefield just to establish the Pandavas. Because he liked them. Why he liked them? Because they liked him. Reciprocation is there. It's not that he's just partial. He's impartial. He says in the beginning, what does he say? Samasavesa bhutesu. I am not partial to anyone. I love everyone because everyone is his part and parcel. But those who love me, naturally I love them more. And then Prabhupada explains in the purport, just like a man, he may love all the children, but his children, he gives special attention to them. So those who want to be the devotees of Krishna, he gives them special attention. This is this chapter, most confidential knowledge. We can take advantage of this information. We can take advantage of the fact that Krishna is Bhaktivatsal, that he is inclined to his devotees. He's equal to everyone, but to his devotees, he's inclined. So many examples are there. How he helped Draupadi, and Arjuna, and the Pandavas, Yudhisthira, and even Bhishma. Bhishma, of course, was on the other side by circumstance. But at the end, Krishna personally came to where Bhishma was lying on the bed of arrows, because he knew that in his heart, he was also Krishna's devotee. Krishna knew that he is my. So Krishna knows he's in your heart. He's in everyone's heart. He can see. And so nobody can cheat him. But we have to try to put him in the center. That's where he belongs. It's not an artificial thing that we're doing, like I said to Mr. Gautam. This is not a fanaticism or sentiment. This is science. At least make an experiment. That's what Prabhupada told us. Okay, you may not understand this. This is something new to you. You're American. But why not try it? The theory is, or the premise is, that Krishna is God, the Supreme Person, the cause of all causes, and that he is in everyone's heart. And if we surrender to him, he'll reciprocate, and then we'll be happy because this is our natural constitutional position. Michael's here? No. Oh, Mr.
I'm here, Maharaj.
Oh, you're here. You get through to...
Yes, I think he's resting now. Well, I got through to him.
So you want to read the purport at 29?
Sure. Yeah. Purport. One may question here that if Krishna is equal to everyone and no one is his special friend, then why does he take a special interest in the devotees who are always engaged in his transcendental service? But this is not discrimination, it is natural. Any man in this material world may be very charitably disposed, yet he has a special interest in his own children. The Lord claims that every living entity, in whatever form, is his son, and so he provides everyone with a generous supply of the necessities of life. He is just like a cloud which pours rain all over, regardless of whether it falls on rock or land or water. But for his devotees, he gives specific attention. Such devotees are mentioned here. They are always in Krishna consciousness, and therefore they are always transcendentally situated in Krishna. The very phrase Krishna consciousness suggests that those who are in such consciousness are living transcendentalists, situated in him. The Lord says here distinctly, Maite, they are in me. Naturally, as a result, the Lord is also in them. This is reciprocal. This also explains the words Ye yata mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajami aham. Whoever surrenders unto me, proportionately I take care of him. This transcendental reciprocation exists because both the Lord and the devotee are conscious. When a diamond is set in a golden ring, it looks very fine. The gold is glorified, and at the same time the diamond is glorified. The Lord and the living entity eternally glitter, and when a living entity becomes inclined to the service of the Supreme Lord, he looks like gold. The Lord is a diamond, and so this combination is very nice. Living entities in a pure state are called devotees. The Supreme Lord becomes the devotee of his devotees. If a reciprocal relationship is not present between the devotee and the Lord, then there is no personalist philosophy. In the impersonal philosophy, there is no reciprocation between the Supreme Lord, between the Supreme and the living entity. But in the personalist philosophy, there is. The example is often given that the Lord is like a desire tree, and whatever one wants from this desire tree, the Lord supplies. But here the explanation is more complete. The Lord is here stated to be partial to the devotees. This is the manifestation of the Lord's special mercy to the devotees. The Lord's reciprocation should not be considered to be under the law of karma. It belongs to the transcendental situation in which the Lord and his devotees function. Devotional service to the Lord is not an activity of this material world. It is part of the spiritual world where eternity, bliss, and knowledge predominate.
Okay. Any comments or questions?
Is there any scale of measurement of devotion and love?
Yeah, there definitely is. We're just reading, we have a book called Nectar of Devotion, which is compiled by Rupa Goswami, one of the first disciples of Lord Chaitanya. And he gives a very nice description. First, it's atau shraddha. We have a little faith, just like we all have a little faith. We're listening to a discussion of Bhagavad Gita. So the next stage after that, we associate with devotees, sadhu sangha. And we like them. We like to be with them. The sadhu sangha, it's called. Then the next stage is bhajana kriya. Okay, we're associating with these people. Then we take up the practice, sadhu sangha, where we take up what they're doing. They're getting up early in the morning. They're chanting Hare Krishna, so we also do. Then the next stage is anartana vritti. Anartana vritti means we begin to lose our bad qualities. We give up our habits of sleeping too much, eating too much, having illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, these kind of things, meat eating. We give them up. We give up their bad habits. We see that they don't produce happiness. Next stage, after that may take a long time before we give up all our bad habits. When we give up all our bad habits, next we come to the stage of nishta. Nishta means steady. So we like to come to this stage. It's not so easy. Nishta means we can see things as they are because we're steady in ourselves. We're not in anxiety. We have control of our senses. We're not living with an enemy. The scribes in the 6th chapter, mind is the best friend or the worst enemy. So we're living with the enemy. We can never be completely peaceful. You have to be careful. The enemy may attack. But Nishta stage means we become steady. Then from that stage, real devotional service begins. The next stage is Ruchi. We get a taste. We have a real attraction for the name of the Lord, for discussing about the Lord like we're doing now. Then the next stage, Ruchi. Then there's a Shakti. We become more attached. And then there's gradually Bhava, and then Prema, and then the highest stage, like Radharani, she's considered at the highest stage. So yes, there's a gradation, how we can come. But to become a devotee is not so easy thing. First we have to love God more than ourselves. That's really what a devotee means. Devotee means love. One who loves the Lord. So mostly we come with a material motive. We want some knowledge, we want some, which is good. We want some relief from misery, which is also good. We want some material advantage in the world. So that at least we're coming to the right source, we're coming to God. But as we get closer, then we see that the material world is full of misery. Maybe, Michael, you can check in chapter 8, text 16 and 17. You just give us some research from there. So there it's explained that the material world is always a troublesome, because it's not our real home. And it's temporary. Therefore, Krishna says, Dukalayam ashashvatam. Not only is it full of trouble, but it's temporary. So, but we're trying to make this place the kingdom of God. There's one famous Christian theologian said like that, St. Thomas, I think. He said, we want the kingdom of God without God. So this is our disease. We want everything to be godly, heavenly, but we don't want God on the scene. But that's not possible. We want the kingdom of God, then we have to put God in the center, Ishavashyam. We put God in the center, then we become eligible to enter into God's kingdom. And we can create that even here. We can become God conscious even in the material world. We don't have to wait until we're dead before we go to heaven. We can create this Krishna consciousness or this God consciousness even here in the material world and live very peacefully and happily. Did you find that verse, Michael?
Yeah. It's chapter 8, verse 16. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again.
Next verse, what is that?
I think it's
okay.
Relates by human calculation 1,008.
Okay, leave it at that. So now, this is the point. In other words, just like Maggie was here the other day, she was saying, oh, you think this material world is bad. But that's not exactly true. We don't think it's bad. We think it's a wonderful contrivance to keep those who are envious of God from disturbing the spiritual world. Therefore, Maya is in charge of the material world. She's saying, no, unless you're a devotee, you can't go there. You're welcome to go there, but you have to qualify. The qualification is you love God more than yourself. Otherwise, it's false ego. So people will say, oh, why you hate the material world? We don't hate the material world. We hate the fact that we're still attached to it. And it's only causing us trouble, but we can't give up that trouble because of attachment. Therefore, it's a gradual process. To become attached to Krishna, then automatically we become detached from Maya or material activities, material desires. Everybody is harboring material desires in their heart. You want to be a great man. You want to be famous. You want to be rich. Something you want should come to you. But the devotee is thinking, doesn't matter my position. Let everything go to my spiritual master. Let's glorify him. Why? Because he's in harmony with the will of the Lord. He's worthy to be glorified. But that's why it's so nice to have spiritual master, excuse me. Because then we can practically see that he's more qualified than I am. He knows the science of Krishna better than me. So to glorify him is natural. It won't lead to some fanaticism, some cult following, that we are taking a human being to be God. Once Prabhupada was asked like that, are you God? In an audience, the student or young people were there, new people were there. So they're asking, are you God? And the Prabhupada said, no, I'm not God. I'm a servant of God. Then he further qualified. He said, better to say, I'm aspiring to be a servant of God, because to be a servant of God is not easy. Not easy, why? Because in the material world, due to false ego and the mode of passion, everyone wants to put themselves in the center. But we met a person, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Trivikarma. We had a chance to associate with him, and I was very cynical, and I didn't immediately accept. But after some time of associating with him, and I was fortunate to have a lot of association, intimate association with him. I was giving him a massage every day when he was in London, 1969. I came to the conclusion that this person is a pure devotee. He has no personal motive to exploit me or anything. He simply wants to give us Krishna. I came to that conclusion. Now, that's my subjective realization. I can't, impose it on you. But I think I'm suggesting that you study his books, study his lectures, study his conversations. He's got 35 volumes of conversations that he spoke in his office and his room and so on. Plus so many classes are recorded. And you may come to the same conclusion that Prabhupada is not an ordinary man, but he's actually in harmony with the will of the Lord. I came to that conclusion. It took me a while. I was testing him, and he was testing me. Like, I could tell you one quick story. We were in London, and it was the first time we had a public program. So, in that public program, there was 300 or 400 people, mostly Hindus. And some of them were challenging. What about Shiva? What about, like that? And they were quite, some of them were quite disruptive. And I remember Prabhupada speaking very boldly to one man. He said, sit down, you are nonsense. And we never saw Srila Prabhupada speak like that, because he was a very gentle person. But on the field, preaching to hundreds of people, he was very bold. So the next day, I was giving massage, and it was a series of lectures. So I was thinking in my mind, I was appreciating his boldness in the previous evening, and I was thinking I was like the masseur getting the prize fighter ready for his next fight. So I was massaging Prabhupada, and that was my mood. My mood was, you and me, Prabhupada, we could take over the world. And I was thinking like that, and talking and massaging and talking. And suddenly he said, in a very emphatic voice, no. And my hands froze on his body. Then he spoke with another voice, like a child, from way inside his heart. He said, in a very sweet way, in a very humble, meek way, he said, I am simply a servant, a humble servant. Then, when he said that, I felt so embarrassed. I was thinking, he's such an aristocrat. I shouldn't be allowed in the same room with him. Who am I? I'm some guy from New York, But here was this aristocratic person who was so humble, and at the same time so strong. And that, I felt like that. And there was a throw rug on the floor, and I thought I should go under the rug. So the point was, because Prabhupada was so humble, he made me a little humble, at least for the moment. That's how he was teaching us, by example. He didn't allow us to jack him up and make him like a cult person. Whenever I spoke like that, he would say, no, Krishna is the Father. He would bring me to Krishna. I had a tendency to make him God. But he didn't accept that. He said, no, Krishna is God. He would always bring me to Krishna. This is the real guru. This is why we object with the Mayavadis gurus and so on. They allow their disciples to call them God. But we say, no. The real guru is the one who puts God in the center. That's his qualification. He doesn't claim to be God. He claims to be the servant of the servant of the servant of God. And that also is a rare position. Okay? Anyone else? Am I talking too much?
Hey, Maharaj, how are you? This is Jorge.
Oh, Jai Jorge. Any questions?
Yes. So you said that, that Prabhupada, he taught by example, and that an example that the one thing that he taught by example was his humility, and that by, and that by you being around him, it made you humble.
That's right.
So it seems to me like, is that's like the surefire way to get that quality, like, because what other way is there to get that quality?
Very good point. Therefore, sadhu sangha is the most important item. We should associate with saintly people who are considered more advanced than us. So we consider this person is a better devotee than me, so let me associate with them. But then we have to learn how to associate. Just like Duryodhana came to associate with Krishna, but he stood at his head. When Arjuna knew the position of Krishna, he sat at his feet. So just association alone is not enough. We have to associate in a proper way, in a humble way, and a receptive way. Because it's not just by example that he teaches, he also teaches by precept. Prabhupada was speaking. He was speaking the philosophy of Krishna. And it's very important that we learn the philosophy of Krishna. Otherwise, we can easily turn it to fanatics and sentimentalists, like we see the Muslims and Christians. No offense, but generally, they become fanatical or sentimental. Jesus is the only way. There's the life and stuff. No, let's come to the science of Krishna. You follow, Jorge?
Yes. I just have it muted so I don't do any noise in the background or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So as you mentioned, there are different steps for measurement. Is there any it's placed into the what do you call this? In gradings, like this is step 1, step 2, step 3, like that?
Yeah, I tried to go through that. First step is we have a little faith in the subject. Most people won't spend 5 minutes listening. Here, now you all tonight, whoever's here, you're spending some time. This is the first step. Most people don't care. So what are you wasting your time talking philosophy? We could be making money. We could be out canvassing to get the election finished, and then we'll be happy. So everybody's thinking they have a better thing to do. But we say this is the most important thing, to find out who you are. What's the meaning of life? Before you run off half-cocked in this way or that way. Then you can do something, but still you have to learn who you are. So the beginning is hearing, regular hearing from the right source. Therefore, we emphasize our books and book distribution and book publication and book translation. We have these books in so many languages because we can, in a very peaceful way, in the privacy of our own home or in our own private space, we can go deeply into the subject without anybody over our back and telling us what to do, We can think about it. That was Prabhupada's mood. He wanted us to become thoughtfully independent. Brahminical means thoughtfully independent. Not anybody's man. Brahmin won't become like a Sudra, somebody's man. He's thoughtfully independent. So that's what Prabhupada wanted to create, some Brahmins who were actually Brahminical according to the criteria given in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita describes the Brahmins. Cleanliness, austerity, truthfulness. These are some of the qualities that are described. We could go there. What is it? Chapter 18, text 42. Yes. peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmins work. So it's not just by birth. We have to have these qualities. Just like we give the example, if you're a high court judge, then it's a good chance your son can also become a judge in the future, but he has to qualify. It's not automatically because he's the son of a high court judge, he becomes a high court judge. Similarly, those who are claiming, oh, my father is a Brahmin, so I'm a Brahmin. But that, it has to be by, Krishna says, by quality and work. Quality has to be there and also work. If you're working in a butcher store, you can't claim to be a Brahmin. You're not doing the work of a Brahmin. But both things have to be there. Therefore, again, we say scientific, not sentimental, not just by some edict or you're rubber stamped a Brahmin or a Mahatma or something. No. You have to see what is the quality of a Mahatma.
So we can expect all this quality in our Jain Gautam. Peacefulness, self-control,
I'm
austerity.
not working like a Brahmin. I don't expect the qualities. He's come to the West. He wants to make money and be happy here. He can become, again, a proper Brahmin, but he has to understand the philosophy properly. Therefore, I'm happy that he's coming to these classes. Is he here now? He's gone somewhere. You see, his mind will take him away.
I think Sumesh had some question.
No, Maharaj, I'm here. I'm listening every single day.
Oh.
I really appreciate it.
Mr. Gautam Ki.
Oh, Maharaj ki jai.
Right.
Maharaj ki jai.
Yeah.
Sumesh, go ahead. I think he had question.
But we're making a point that the Brahmin, how does a Brahmin work? His main work is he tries to help others understand that they're not the body, the first thing, that you're the soul. Aham Brahmasmi. This is the first teaching. Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Brahman. I'm the soul. I don't die when the body dies. So he's broadcasting that message. But, you know, in the Kali Yuga, even the Brahmins, they didn't like Prabhupada. Even Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in Bengal 500 years ago. The Brahminical class were against him because he was giving to everybody this message. Come, chant Hare Krishna, dance with us. But no restriction that you have to be born in a Brahmin family. Some of his most intimate disciples, like Haridas Thakur, he was born in a Muslim family. Some others were born as Sudras, but they were given a chance to serve the Lord. And so they became very exalted devotees. So it's not by birth, but by qualification. And Prabhupada is saying, anybody can be qualified, but don't bluff and don't be a hypocrite. What do you think, Sanjay?
That's very good. I mean, I always believe it's not about the by birth. Just like the last time we discussed, even if I'm Brahman and somebody attacked my kids, my duty to defend it become Kshatriya at that moment. So that's how it's described. By arms you can be a Kshatriya, by brain you can be Brahman, by leg you could be Sudra or Vaishya. So all those are four functions available in every human being. It's not just by birth.
Yeah.
Somesh?
Anything else?
Yeah, I have a question. So, like, you talk about Prabhupada, and is there anybody like him? And because is it important to have a guru? You know, if you want to go this path, and if there is, it is important. Then who should be the guru? Whom do we?
Okay, that's a good question. Well, first, I remember when in Prabhupada's time, people would say like that. Or someone would be, I'll give you an example. There was one Dr. Patel in Bombay, or Mumbai you call it now, who was very close with Prabhupada. He would be talking with him on the morning walk, and he was very friendly with Prabhupada, and he was a smart man. And so I at one time I said to him, in front of Prabhupada, I said, why don't you get initiated? But Prabhupada didn't like that. He said, no, don't push him. Initiation will come gradually when he's ready. In other words, you shouldn't think, oh, I have to get initiated immediately. That will come when you're more serious, and you're taking the process. Then you feel. So in the beginning, just like we're saying, Atau Shraddha. First we have a little faith, we discuss together, what like you're doing now. You read some books, you have some good questions, and then gradually like that, then you see the need of a guru. There's no need now to artificially say, oh, you're my guru. Or, first of all, nobody will accept you as a disciple. We have to think I have to be qualified first to become a guru or become a disciple. And therefore the guru will be testing the disciple and the disciple tests the guru. Again, it's not sentiment, it's not fanaticism. Everything should be done. In the Hari Bhakti Vilas, one of our literatures, it says there should be a period of at least 1 year of living together, guru and disciple, before initiation. To see, the guru has to see, is this person really serious to be a disciple? And the disciple has to see, is this person really bona fide guru? Is he still under the modes of material nature? Is he still getting too angry unnecessarily? Is he still too much attracted to his women? Then I shouldn't accept him. So go slowly. It's nice that you're interested, step by step. You have the Bhagavad Gita, so that's our main book, but we have so many books, how we can gradually advance.
Go ahead, someone has a question.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. It's a good question.
Somebody else.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I also have a question along those lines. So what about the perspective of, when somebody is reading one of Srila Prabhupada's books, in one sense they are taking instruction from a guru, and they are approaching a guru even though it's not in a directly personal way.
Yeah, so that's good. There's two kinds of gurus. There's a Shiksha Guru and Diksha Guru. So Shiksha Guru is giving instruction. So Prabhupada is Shiksha Guru for everybody for the next 10,000 years. He's going to be the prominent Acharya. His books will be the spiritual law books. But in his books he also says the importance of having a Diksha Guru. Diksha Guru means one who gives you initiation. He gives you a spiritual name, and you make a vow in front of him and in front of others, in front of the deity, in front of the fire, that you'll follow the principles that are recommended, or more than recommended, they're mandatory, that you have to give up illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, meat eating, and you have to chant a minimum of 16 rounds on your beads. This is the criteria for getting initiated in ISKCON. So if you want to be initiated through this process, then it takes some time to come to that standard. But otherwise, yes, everybody can accept Prabhupada as a Shiksha Guru. Shiksha means giving instruction. He's instructing us. But Diksha Guru is where we make it formal. So now the question is, who is more important, Diksha Guru or Shiksha Guru? So the Shiksha Guru can be more important. That's allowed. But still, Diksha Guru is needed.
Yeah, I have read on many occasions in the similar line. Like if we have desire for getting a guru, once we focus, then we'll find automatically. And
yeah,
unlike in the past where those books were not available easily, but books is also the experience of the persons. That's what they write. So once nowadays we can start from there, and then we can easily find the guru with what we are looking for.
That's a good point. We say by the mercy of Krishna one gets a guru, and then by the mercy of Guru one gets Krishna.
Yeah.
Maharaj, what qualifies a guru to give diksha, or what qualifications or qualification?
Well, first qualification, he has to have a guru himself. He has to be a bona fide disciple. That was Prabhupada's mood. Just like I tested him. His mood was, I'm a servant. How could he keep that mood? Because he was always remembering his guru and his relationship with his guru, so he was always humble. So that's the qualification. That first qualification, one is a bona fide disciple before he can become a guru. One has to be a bona fide disciple. And then, of course, it's mentioned in our literature, the guru is one who's controlled the 6 gratifying urges. They're listed as mind, anger, words for talking, tongue for tasting, belly and genital. So these 6, they're called pushing. They're pushing us. Eat more, talk more. With our mind, mind is going crazy here and there. Anger. So we have to see, is a guru is one who has these things under control. He's controlled his gratifying senses. He's not a servant of the senses. He's the master of the senses. So we should test. Like I said, is the guru really qualified or not?
You should be able to see that in his behavior.
Correct.
Like if a guru doesn't follow those, if a guru doesn't restrain those senses, then it will show.
Yeah, that's why it's recommended we should live with the guru for some time to see clearly what is his qualification. That might not be possible, but still, we have the internet. We can go back and forth. Like I'm inviting someone who wants to write to me. I'll be glad to try to answer. We have the internet and so on. Anyone else? We only finished this one verse.
Yeah, we can go to the verse.
We could go to the next one, or less. Anything more on this verse? It's an important verse. Okay, one more. Api chet suracharo vajate mam anyanyabak sadhu eva samantavya samyak vyasitito hisaha. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. But this is a controversial verse. I think Maggie was bringing up the point. Well, what if somebody may claim to be a devotee, but he's doing some nonsense? Then why should we consider him a devotee? Purport, who's going to read?
Yeah. Purport. The word sulu rachara used in this verse is very significant, and we should understand it properly. When a living entity is conditioned, he has 2 kinds of activities. One is conditional and the other is constitutional. As for protecting the body or abiding by the rules of society and state, certainly there are different activities, even for the devotees, in connection with the conditional life, and such activities are called conditional. Besides these, the living entity who is fully conscious of his spiritual nature and is engaged in Krishna consciousness or the devotional service of the Lord has activities which are called transcendental. Such activities are performed in his constitutional position, and they are technically called devotional service. Now, in the conditioned state, sometimes devotional service and the conditional service in relation to the body will parallel one another. But then again, sometimes these activities become opposed to one another. As far as possible, a devotee is very cautious so that he does not do anything that could disrupt his wholesome condition. He knows that perfection in his activities depend on his progressive realization of Krishna consciousness. Sometimes, however, it may be seen that a person in Krishna consciousness commits some act which may be taken as most abominable, socially or politically. But such a temporary fall down does not disqualify him. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that if a person falls down, but is wholeheartedly engaged in the transcendental service of the Supreme Lord, the Lord being situated within his heart, purifies him and excuses him from that abomination. The material contamination is so strong that even a yogi, fully engaged in the service of the Lord, sometimes becomes ensnared. But Krishna consciousness is so strong that such an occasional fall down is at once rectified. Therefore, the process of devotional service is always a success. no one should deride a devotee for some accidental fall down from the ideal path, for, as explained in the next verse, such occasional fall downs will be stopped in due course as soon as a devotee is completely situated in Krishna consciousness.
Keep reading.
Therefore, a person who is situated in Krishna consciousness and is engaged with determination in the process of chanting Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Ram.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Hare.
should be considered to be in a transcendental position. Even by chance or accident he is found to have fallen. The words Sadhur Eva, he is saintly, are very emphatic. They are a warning to the non-devotees that because of an accidental fall down, a devotee should not be derided. He should still be considered saintly, even if he has accidentally fallen down. And the word Mantavyaha is still more emphatic. If one does not follow this rule and derides a devotee for his accidental fall down, then one is disobeying the order of the Supreme Lord. The only qualification of a devotee is to be unflinchingly and exclusively engaged in devotional service.
So that means, again, that we're doing the constitutional activities and also, what was the other word? Practical or
Conditional.
conditional, yeah. So we have conditional things to do. We have to make money. We have to show. So it doesn't mean that that someone who's a devotee, he's only chanting 24 hours a day. He's doing his work. He's cleaning his house. He's fixing his car and so on, because these things are being used in the service of the Lord ultimately. Go ahead.
Mark, I have a question. So many times in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is using the term accidental fall down.
Yeah, well, that's why I want you to finish the purport.
Okay, in the Nrsimha Purana, the following statement is given. Bhagavati cha haravanya chinta mrisha malinopi virajate manushya nahi shasa karusha chavi karachi Timira parabhavatam upaiti chandra. The meaning is that even if one fully engaged in the devotional service of the Lord is sometimes found engaged in abominable activities, these activities should be considered to be like the spots that resemble the mark of a rabbit on the moon. Such spots do not become an impediment to the diffusion of moonlight. Similarly, the accidental fall down of a devotee from the path of saintly character does not make him abominable. On the other hand, one should not misunderstand that a devotee in transcendental devotional service can act in all kinds of abominable ways. This verse only refers to an accident due to the strong power of material connections. Devotional service is more or less a declaration of war against the illusory energy. As long as one is not strong enough to fight the illusory energy, there may be accidental fall downs. But when one is strong enough, he is no longer subjected to such fall downs as previously explained. No one should take advantage of this verse and commit nonsense and think that he is still a devotee. If he does not improve in his character by devotional service, then it is to be understood that he is not a high devotee.
Okay. That answer your question? Anyone else have a question or comment?
Yeah, this comment, it's mentioned clearly that as far as possible the devotee is very cautious so that he does not do anything that could disrupt his wholesome conditions. It's like there's very unlikely they'll be falling to low level, but even though if they'll fall sometimes, their average should be more than in the good book rather than the bad book.
Yeah.
So there should not be any excuse of that one, you are doing bad and then consider it as a good.
We have 10 offenses in chanting the holy name of the Lord. One of the offenses is to commit sinful activity on the strength of chanting. Because we read, if we chant Hare Krishna, we can remove all our sinful activities from the past. But if we think, okay, I'm going to go out and do some sinful thing tonight, but tomorrow I'm going to chant and remove that sinful, this is the worst kind of offense. We'll never make progress if we have that mentality. But if we're sincere, and we're trying sincerely to improve ourselves, if some accidental fall may come, but then we should just pick ourselves up and continue with the process without becoming too much, absorbed one way or the other. Just continue and just think of ourselves as big rascals. This is why we're in the material world. We've turned away from God, and that will make us more humble. If we take the fall down in a proper way, then it'll make us humble. Just like the example. I was improperly talking to Prabhupada. You and me, Prabhupada. I didn't say like that, but I was thinking like that. You and me, we can take over the world, Prabhupada, something like that. So that's an improper thought, but Prabhupada immediately corrected that by his example. So this is the process itself. In other words, we'll be corrected. If we stick to the process, then naturally we'll be corrected. But we have to stick to it. And one of those things is that we don't commit sinful activity on the strength of chanting. If we think, I'm going to go to the nightclub, to the naked dance, but tomorrow I'll chant. No. That kind of chanting will never bring you to the goal of love of God. The goal of chanting is to come to the point of love of God. But if we're chanting with offense, then we won't reach that goal. So there are 10 offenses listed. We could go over them now, quickly, if anybody's interested. The first offense is the blasphemy of devotees who've dedicated their lives to propagating the holy name of the Lord. So this comes back to the point that Krishna doesn't like his devotee to be vilified. He's Bhakta-vatsal. So we should be careful not to vilify the devotee. Then the second offense, to consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. Third offense is to disobey the order of the spiritual master. Fourth offense is to blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of the Vedic virgin. Fifth offense is to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna as imagination. Sixth offense, to give some mundane interpretation of the holy name. Seventh offense I mentioned, to commit sinful activity on the strength of chanting. Then the eighth offense is also there. You consider the chanting as one of the auspicious ritualistic activity offered in the Vedas as fruit of activity or karma kanda. It's not a karma kanda, this chanting. It's transcendental. Ninth offense is to instruct the glories of the holy name to the faithless. I hope I'm not doing that now. 10th offense is to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. So we have to give up our material attachments. Otherwise, like Prabhupada says, we'll remain a very low-class devotee. Kanista devotee is a very basic devotee. So we want to rise up. There's 3 levels of devotee in a general. Kanista means low devotee. Then there's Madhya, middle class. Then the Uttama devotee, or the highest class devotee. We have examples of them, from the Shastra. Prahlad Maharaj was a highest Narada Muni. So we can't imitate them, but we can glorify them as being highest class devotee. Anyone else? Comments? Questions?
So where is this offense mentioned? Where is this offense is mentioned? Is it there in some words or somewhere it is mentioned?
I can send you an email.
Okay, that will be great.
Unless we find them in. But anyway, go ahead. You have a question?
I was going to ask number 5. You said very fast something about imagination. I could not follow that.
Yeah. Number 5 offense is to consider the chanting as exaggeration or imagination. In other words, it says by chanting once, one can eliminate more sins than one is able to commit. So you may say, well, that's an exaggeration. But no, it's not an exaggeration, but that chanting has to be pure. One chanting, like Ajamil. There's a story from Srimad Bhagavatam. Ajamil was born as a Brahmin, but then later he became associating with a prostitute, and he committed so many sinful activities. But at the end of life, he chanted his son's name, even not his own name, or not that his son was named Narayan. So he chanted very sincerely for his son, and therefore the Yamadutas, or the agents of Yama, they were checked by the Vishnudutas, but they couldn't take him to hell because he had chanted without offense. So this is the quality of the chanting is so powerful, but we may think it's exaggeration. But again, it comes to the point of pure chanting, not just like a parrot. We can teach a parrot how to chant also. Hare Krishna, and then if you throw a cat in with the parrot, he won't chant. He'll go, caw, caw. So we have to learn how to chant from the marrow of our bones, with real urgency and real sincerity. Then we can do that even at the time of death, where we're chanting the name of the Lord, where we're remembering the Lord. This is the goal, to remember God. Krishna promises, chapter 4, text 9, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatpataha. He says, anyone who understands Janma, my birth and activities, does not take birth again. Naiti mama eti sojuna. He doesn't come back to this material world. If we understand properly Krishna's transcendental birth, Krishna's transcendental activities, Krishna's transcendental name, if we understand that properly, then we're already at the point of liberation. We won't have to ever come back to this material world of birth and death. We get a spiritual body at the time of death. That's what happened to Narada Muni. In his previous life, he was the son of a maidservant. But because he took the process of devotional service very seriously, he became in the next life Narada Muni, pure devotee. So we can also become pure devotees. Nobody can check us. Just like Prahlad Maharaj. There was so much attempt to check his devotional service by his father, by the ministers, by the teachers, his teachers. He was just a young boy. But nobody could stop his devotional service. And similarly, even a pure devotee like Prahlad, he couldn't convince his father to take up devotional service. His father was Hiranyakashipu. So the point is, everyone has their independence. If we don't want to be Krishna conscious, nobody can force us. And if we want to be Krishna conscious, nobody can check us. Anyone else?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mike.
Mataji? No, let Mataji.
Hi, Hare Krishna. I had a quick question. You mentioned before there's different types of devotees, and the lower devotee is the material one who's a little bit more involved in the materials, and then as you get higher, you're more involved in the spiritual aspect. So will all the devotees, so long as they believe in God, will they all reach God the same way?
They'll all make progress to reaching God. But it may take a few lifetimes. And one can finish up in this lifetime. That depends. We give the example of the sky. The sky is open to all birds. They can fly. But one bird has a capacity to fly very high. Another bird stays close to the ground. So the air or the sky is not partial. Like in this verse we read. Krishna says, I'm equal to all. The one who surrenders it to me, then I show him special mercy. So the highest mercy is that Krishna will bring us back to his abode. But that will require our pure devotion. So we can finish up in one lifetime or even in one moment. But generally it's a gradual process.
So if you die and then you're brought back into this world, do you start off at the same level, or do you wait?
If you decide to start off again, because whether you start off or not, that depends again on your free will. It's not automatic. It's not mechanical. It depends on you. Do you want to start off again? Yes. Then you start from the spot that you left off. But maybe you'll be born in a rich family and you'll say, "Oh, I just want to enjoy life. What is this? Let me enjoy first of all." There's a saying like that. The different class of people. There's the prince. So it says for the prince, he should live forever because he's happy, young, prince, everything, opulent. And it says for the butcher, he should neither die or live. Because living, he's in a hellish condition, and when he dies, he's going to be in a hellish condition. And then for the brahmachari who's performing some austerity, it said better to die immediately, because you're performing such austerity, you'll go to the high planet. Then it said for the saintly person, either die or live, it doesn't matter. Because if you're saintly, it means you're remembering God. Just like with Srila Prabhupada, we saw practically. We were saying Prabhupada was lying on his deathbed or his last days. And we were pleading with him, Prabhupada, please stay with us. We need your help. He said, my staying or going, I'm not attached. Because either place, I'm serving Krishna. If I stay, I'm serving Krishna. If I leave, I'm serving Krishna. So that's the saintly person. He doesn't care if he lives or dies, because in any condition, he's always remembering Krishna. So that's the platform we want to reach. But before we reach that, we have to spend more time in the material world. We'll be tested. Maya is like the agent of the Lord. She's testing us. Do you want to remain in the material world, or do you want to go to the spiritual world? If we decide we want to go to the spiritual world, Maya will congratulate us. But that has to come from our heart. And that will depend on how sincere we are. Do we really want Krishna? Or do we want to just make it a name only? People will think, oh, he's a devotee, he's wearing tilak, he has neck beads. So no, this may be Kalichala. Bhakti Vinod Thakur, one of our predecessor gurus, I think I sent you a poem that he wrote. Did I send it to you, or you sent it? Some poem of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, alas for those who spend their days in festive mirth and joy. All right, I'll send it to you, Maggie. Anyway, the point is that he said, Bhakti Vinod we're talking about, his point was, why not finish up in this lifetime? Why remain loitering here in the material world? But Maya will test us. What do we really want in our heart of hearts? Do we really want Krishna, or do we want to compete with Krishna in the matter of being the enjoyer, the proprietor, what's the else? Enjoying, proprietorship, and controlling. We want to be the controller, or do we want to allow Krishna to control us?
So, Swamiji, I have a comment on this one.
Please do.
So, about the rebirth and the reason for rebirth, is it connected to the desires, like especially the unfulfilled desires?
Yes.
If any of the desires, material desires, are unfulfilled, that leads to what kind of life you get again. And that's where you start to try to fulfill that desire. And it's an endless circle, vicious circle, where you are kind of stuck in this material world to fulfill those desires.
That's right. Therefore, it said at the time of death, two things will be considered: what you deserve and what you desire. Then, by higher authorities will determine, yes, you go here. You get a spiritual body, or you're born in the body of a dog, because that's what you like to live as a dog and have sex on the street. Then have a dog's body. So two things are determined at the time of death: what you desire and what you deserve.
Okay.
But thank you for the comment. Very good.
I think pretty much like a video game when
next level.
Died, next level, when you rebirth, again you have given some tools which you already have crossed that level. So, and then you start your game again from that point onwards.
I never played any video games.
So we are in a simulation.
Video game guys, they had started Gita, and we have not done yet.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Prabhu.
This is Nakul.
Oh, Nakul. Nice to hear from you, Nakul. Nakul is a nice Indian boy. He's been coming to the temple here in Orlando for so many years. Nice to hear from you, Nakul. You have a question or comment?
Yes, Maharaj, question. So, you said at the end of the life, the desires will take us to next destination. So, and Prabhu said that if we have material desires, we'll still be here. So how can we change those material desires so that we don't have to take birth to Krishna's service?
That's a good question. That's the process of Krishna consciousness, is to get a higher taste. Krishna says, Param Justanavartate. If we get a higher taste, just like I was previously eating meat, now I have zero attraction to eating a hamburger, because I have better food, nice prasadam offered to Krishna with love, and so therefore it's easy to give up. Similarly, illicit sex. We don't say no sex. Why not get a wife and have proper sex life? We get children. So these things we can change into Krishna consciousness, desires. The desires we have now, if we see them, that's the other point. If we can see our material desires with knowledge, where they're leading us, then it's easy to give them up. We give the example of passing stool. So stool is something very intimately connected with our body. But once it comes out, we're no longer attached, because we see it, we can smell it, we can understand what it is. Therefore, we don't have any hesitation in flushing the toilet, isn't it? So similarly, when we see our material desires, where they're taking us, what they're actually going to bring us, then we can give them up. But we don't see that. We just see the first step, illicit sex. Oh, she loves me. I touch her breast, then I'll be happy. But we don't see, if we follow it around, her husband will kill me. Step 6. Well, we didn't get to that step yet. But if we see the whole picture, that means we have to be a little thoughtful. We have to be calm and peaceful and see where these material desires are taking us. Then we can give them up very easily. Does that help?
Yes, Maharaj.
Therefore, what Prabhupada was saying, be independently thoughtful, be Brahminical. Yes, go ahead. Someone else was saying.
Yeah, I had one comment to share. I think the thing with desires is, more we try to fulfill a desire by doing something, it actually adds fuel to the fire. So you can never fulfill a desire by
a material desire.
Yeah, it can never be fulfilled. More you try to fulfill, more you want to do more of that.
But spiritual desires, the more you desire, the more you fulfill them, the more Krishna reciprocates, the more you feel inspired and happy to do more for Krishna. So it's an ascending spiral, whereas the material desires is a descending spiral.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you. That's a good comment. Hey, this class is fun. I hope I'm not monopolizing too much.
Just a comment on this verse, basically. I mean, it seems like it's showing the path of, it's a devotional path, basically Bhakti Marga, by removing the fear. So just like when people like to run, but they always have fear, if I'll run, then I'll fall, then my knees will be broken, I'm too old, or many excuses. So just removing those excuses, just go on this devotional path and run. Things will be taken care of. Even if you'll fall, some injury may happen, but still you'll be able to, you'll be stronger and you'll be able to run.
It says on a devotional path, one can run blindfolded and won't be any danger. Because the intention, devotion is a question of intention. What is our intention? Do we really want to please Krishna? Then whatever we do in that direction is auspicious.
Yeah.
Mr. Gautam, any comment, question?
No, Maharaj.
Did our Shiva come?
Prabhuji, no, he did not come.
We have to get on his case.
He's too much in material world.
Come on, he's a Paka Brahmin.
Well, like you said, you have to practice that.
Okay, I think we'll stop here then. Any suggestions for to improve things? I have one suggestion. We can meet like this Saturday morning, 10 o'clock. Who's up for it?
Saturday evening will be okay. Saturday, every Saturday normally I try to play golf.
Play golf?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Devotional service.
We'll try again later. Thank you very much. All glories to Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.